Hi guys and welcome. So you're joining me today for a bit of a fun make and it's going to be a wide pair of trousers. What makes it fun? This makes it fun. I'm actually going to be putting a Scottie dog on the bottom of the leg, and it's obviously got its little bow, but it's also going to have the matching lead running up the side of my leg to the waist. Now I was going to do a poodle, and these are the pleats that you make and put on normally circular skirts. So I've had this fabric for a while. It's got stretch to it both ways, so it's perfect for the trousers that I'm taking the pattern off. Now these are a pair of trousers, and basically they are stretch. They've got a elastic waistband. Now they are wide leg to start off with, but I'm going to go wider than what these are. And they've got a couple of darts in the back, one on each side. So I'm basically going to do it to this pattern, but I'm going to make them longer because these are like 3/4 on me. I want them full length and I want them wide. So this is the trousers that I'm going to be taking the pattern off. So let's get them inside out. And then I'm going to put one leg inside the other. Right, there's 4 pieces to these trousers as well. Got the trousers laid on my fabric, and what I'm doing first is the fabric is folded over. So I'm going, when this is cut out, I'm going to have my 2 front pieces. Now I've extended the legs as in the width, and I've actually measured down and marked that to 30 inches, which is incorporating the hem allowance. When it's come to the top, I've not put any seam allowance on because where it is stitched, it's overlock and then it's stitched inside. So there's like a centimetre seam allowance. Because I'm cutting to that, I've already got my seam allowance in it. At the top, it slightly curves on the front. So I've just followed the shape of that, but I have added on a centimetre seam allowance. On the hip, there's no seam allowance. I'm incorporating the one that's in the trouser, and then I've just tapered it down slightly, not as much as I've done on inside, but I've tapered it down slightly, so this is actually ready to cut now, the front pieces. So let me just... So these are the 2 front pieces. Right. So I've marked the back legs out, and you can see there I've followed the shape, and as you can see it's come out extra here is because if you look there, the back actually folds in there. So I've measured the extra 2 inch, I've made the legs wider because I want the legs wider, and then to the width that I want. Then on the top I've cut this a little bit wider for the simple reason that there is where this dart's going. So I've marked that on both sides of the trousers. That there, as you can see, there's no extra. It's literally marked to the outside of the seam because you can see there it's overlocked and you've got your row of stitching. So that is what I'm going to be working to on these trousers. That's the extra. Following it down here, because again I've got my seam allowance already in that, and then I've literally just widened the leg. So now I'm going to just cut these 2 legs out. So off camera, I've just measured how long that the dart comes down, and it comes down 5 inches. So I've literally just marked the piece of trouser inside. So what I'm going to do now, I'm simply going to pin this in place. And bring that one that way because that's where I need to stop. Right, so all I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it off camera because it's a little job, I'm literally just going to stitch from where I've pinned it there, and I'm going to come in a centimetre to create the darts. Right, so my darts are stitched in place. That's all the little job that I've just done. Then I've also gone round to the overlocker, and literally I've just gone round every side of the fabric. So that whole piece is overlocked round the edges. So the outside of the left leg, I'm literally going to join together. So I've got my back piece, my front piece. Now the outside seam is the seam that I'm just going to go to the joke, and I'm literally going to join that outside seam together. I'm then going to press the seam, then we're going to come back and attach the dog and the lead onto the outside of the leg. Got to change of plan as to my lead. I've just been playing about with the, basically it was bass binder that was just folded in half that I was going to put on. But when it comes to looping it, you can't get it to go in like a circle. So you've got to fold it over and it becomes a weird shape. So what I've gone to Rig Rack. So I'm just deciding which colour I'm going to go with. But because white dog, where's its little bow? And it's a red and white bow. I think what I'm going to go with the pink, because I think it'll pick up nice. I was originally fancying the blue, but no, I'm going to go with a pink. So we're going to play about with this now and just pin it in place. There's no pattern to go to with this, it's just a case of putting it on, playing about with it, how you like it. So I'm going to start off at the waist on the front. Right, so I'm going to go right up to the waistband where the waist is going to be. And I'm coming in about 2 inches towards the front. And I'm simply going to pin that, and then I'm going to come down, I'm going to pin it again, and then what I'm going to do then, I'm going to put the first loop in it. And so I'm going to take it slightly forward, I'm going to fetch this loop round. I'm not going to make it a big one, I just want it to be a small one. So I'm basically trying to get this in a like a circle. Pin that in place. I'm going to pin that at the crossroads there, where it's just overlapping. So you can actually see there, you've got your first loop. And then I'm going to fetch it around. And at this point, I'm going to be crossing it over the side seam of the leg towards the back. Okay, let's get that pinned in place. Fibres off the dog there. And then I'm going to fetch it here. And I'm going to make another loop at this point. Okay, so let me just get that bit pinned there. I'm just going to make the circle shape for me, and then pin that. Just come up there. So there I've got another loop. Okay, so I'm going to come round here. And you're shaping this, so you're trying to get it so that it's flowing. Okay, so it's going to come round. And just keep pinning it every 3 or 4 inches. I'm just going to do a little circle here on the front at the bottom. Right, so I need to place the dog on at this point. I'm just going to turn that under where roughly the seam on the hem is going to be, because I actually want this as close to the bottom as what I can get it, because then when it's on your trouser, it's as if your dog's going for a walk with you. So that's where I'm going to have the dog then, on the outside of my leg. Get it as close to the seam. So with seams here, so I've basically come in an inch before placing the dog there. And then I'm going to bring this lead down. And this is going to come. So where the dog is there, I'm going to put my finger there, and I want that to run underneath the dog. So I'm going to pin that there, because the dog's going to sit on top of it, and I've just pinned myself again. Damn it. So I'm going to cut that there. This is what the lead will look like as you're wearing it on your leg. Okay, so what I'm going to do now then is literally I'm just going to sew all the way around the lead. So I've set my machine up in pink, so you're not going to see any stitching in between it, and I'm aiming to sew right down the middle of the rag. Just put a little bit of a back tack there at the beginning. You don't want to rush this, because you want to get it right, and you're turning all the while you're going around in circles. Let's stretch this back through. What I'm working out now at this point is my inside leg and the final length that I want this trouser to be, and I'm going to say 28.5 inner leg. So from this is the point, the crutch point, I'm going to measure from there. I'm going to allow the seam allowance, and then I'm going to come down. Let me take that up a little bit. Yeah, and I'm going to measure that to where it's going to be, and then I'm going to simply fold that under to where it's going to be. Okay, like so. And I'm going to lay the dog over the lead. As I said, I'm going to bring it over this side, so it's quite close to the outside seam. What do I need that to be? Let me drop that down a little bit. Now, do I want to put a collar on him? I think I do, don't I? So I've just been and put a red collar on the dog. And literally that's just a piece of ribbon folded in half, and I've gone along one side and then gone along the other side, plain and simple. And then I've attached the little neck bow basically under his chin, and that's just a little bead, like a round bead, that I've hand stitched on. So I'm going to pin this in place. Let's go and sew it on. Okay, let's get this little doggy sewn on, shall we? Now when you're doing this and you're stitching it in position, all the fur you want to pull inside the dog, so you're going to be stitching as close to the edge, but then you can put the fur back over the stitching. Okay, so I'm going to start on its tummy. Doing here, I'm using my scissors to literally press the fur back. That goes to a bit of a point corner under its bit there. Touch that round. Again, pulling that fur out of the way. Okay, let's have a look here. Now here, because the fur's lying down, I'm going to actually take the fur and I'm going to pull it this way, so then the fur will lie over. Just try and get that, see whether... And obviously I'm coming up as far as the bow. I just back tack that a couple of times and I'm going to fetch it out, cut that off. Okay, so now I'm coming to this side of the bow. Get that pin out of the way. I'm just going to get that fur there out of the way. And once again here I'm going to pull the fur out of the way. This round, fetch that fur out of the way, just get that pin out of the way as well. Okay, let's have a look at this again. Yeah, so this long fur here that's coming down, I'm going to try and pull it that way, so that again the stitches will be under the fur. Might not quite come far enough over there. Out of the way there. Okay, on, yep. Get that fur down there. Get my pin out of here, and then again, I'm going to pull that fur up. Get it out of the way. Okay, let's turn that round. Pull that fur that way again, so that the stitching will be underneath the fur. Some fur that way and some fur the other way, and hide it in the stitching. So I'm just going to go to the collar, back tack, move that fur there. So this is the top of the dog that I'm doing now, which is its back, and I'm getting the fur to come this way again so it will come over the stitching. Some needs to be that way and some needs to be that way. It's a bit of messing about, but it's worth it for the fur to be hiding your stitches. Okay, let's get that this way. Let's get this. So I'm trying to make a port in here. Here, so much further that way, so much that way, and stitch in the middle. Let's get this little bit stitched. Let's get the pins out of all of this. Right, what I'm going to do at this point as well, I'm going to get a pin, little pin, and I'm literally going to go round where the fur is and just help the fur come out from under the stitching. So that is the finished dog stitched on. Plain sailing from here on. So we're just going to, basically I'm going to clip the other leg. Just get this. Yeah, so I've just got the outside of the opposite leg and I'm simply going to clip all the way down it. Now I won't normally make them up like this. Normally in the past I would have just overlocked these two together, but at the minute my overlocker doesn't want to play ball. It doesn't like any thicknesses. It's not like in the cottons I've got on and the 120s. So at the minute, but having said that, it did do a hell of a lot of work on my full slip petticoat that I did last week. So when I get a chance, I'm just going to, I mean, I have stripped it down and cleaned it, but I'm really going to go through it with a fine tooth comb at some point. A fine tooth comb. Okay, and then I'm going to clip the inside legs of this one. And where the overlocking is, I'm literally just aiming to stitch on the inside of that. So at this point, I'm just simply going to get one of the legs and turn them the right sides. So one's the right way, one's the wrong way. Okay, so the one that's the right way, I'm going to insert into the opposite leg. Making sure that the inside crotch matching the inside crotch. Okay, so I've got crotch to crotch. Okay, and I'm simply going to stitch down this seam. To the crotch bit, I'm going to open the seams up and make sure that that seam is cock on. So as I'm running down here, I'm just making sure that the overlocker that's underneath, I can see it. Okay. When I get to this crossroads, as I call it, on the crutch, at that point I'm just going to give it a little back tack. So it is that area that does come undone on your trousers, doesn't it, your seating area for some reason. So giving it a little back tack is going to help it not do that. Good back tack on that. Get the overlockings cut off, and then what I'm going to do now, obviously once I turn them out there, that technically is the trousers. There's two legs there together. Now I'm actually going to go and try these on at this point in time and see whether I need to make any adjustments, because if I do, this is when I need to be doing them. So I've just tried them on, and the back side is a little bit loose. So I'm going to take a little bit off the back side and come round and take a little bit off the front, but it doesn't need to be much. So where am I here then? Right, so this is the back side, so I'm simply going to stitch all the way around. I'm going to back tack that. I'm going to start coming round, taking some off. And I'm coming in about 1 centimetre. Now on the waist it's fine, so basically I'm just tapering up and running into the same seam that was there. I've just made the tube of elastic for my waist. It's very similar width, but I'm going to do it slightly different to what they're doing because they are very high-waisted trousers. So I'm going to do it where they've got, you put them on, you can see the elastic. This is going to be hidden inside the fabric. So I'm going to start off, I've got the join when I've just joined it, so that's going to be the back. So I'm literally going to get that and put a clip, so that is the half marker. I'm then going to put the back join to that clip to get my quarter. I'm going to get the back and do the other. So it's back to clip, pull it across where my finger is, and that is the quarter. So I'm going to start at the back. I'm going to put the join of the elastic to the back seam going up the butt. Pull the leg through there so I've got all the top. I'm then going to put the clip to the side, clipping it in position, go to the other side, and then I'm going to clip the other quarter. I'm going to come to the front and clip that. So there, going round, there's going to be the same amount of elastic in the quarters. So let's go back and stitch that in position. So where the overlocking is, because bear in mind I overlock round all the trouser pieces, where the overlocking is, that's where I'm going to be stitching the elastic on. So I'm just putting the edges together and running down the centre of the elastic. Reinforcing that rick-rack there, because what I should have done was cut it a tiny bit longer so I could tuck it inside. Tap there. Right, now I'm just going to run round one more time so it's got double rows of stitching holding it in place. Right, so that's had its 2 rows of stitching. Okay. I'm going to fold the elastic so you can see there that that is the fabric and the elastic's going to be inside. But I'm going to simply go around and stitch in the ditch on every seam. Now, sewing in the ditch, for anybody that doesn't know, where the seam is there, you can see the seam there, you're aiming to stitch in the seam, so technically you shouldn't see the stitching on the outside. So let me just get that. And you can see there in the ditch, you just see the ditch and not the stitching. Let me get that cotton inside, so I'm going all the way around, and wherever there's a seam, I'm going to be stitching in the ditch a bit. So I'm just opening where I've got my two. I'm just opening that, making sure that it's laying flat on the inside underneath this. So I'm going to go upstairs now and try them on, and literally just look at the length of the leg before I actually pin it, before I actually do the hems, because that's the last job on the trousers, then they're done. So I'm looking at turning an inch up on the hem. So I'm just on the table now, and I'm actually going to clip the hem up in position because I'm going to stitch these by hand so that you can't see the stitching on the front. So I've actually used two grips upstairs to actually decide whereabouts I needed the hem, because I forgot to take the clips upstairs. So I'm simply going to go round and get some of these cottons off. I'm going to open the side seam, and obviously if you're not comfortable clipping and pinning it up for your marker, then obviously get yourself some sort of measuring gauge, but I know what an inch is, so okay, so I'm going to get myself some needle and thread, and then I'm going to sit down on the settee while I stitch them. Back in 2 ticks. So I've obviously got a little knot in this, and where your side seam is, if there's any overlock in the cottons, just use your needle to scrape them inside and then go from under the seam, so the side seam, take your needle underneath so it's going to hide the knot, and then you're looking at picking the tiniest amount up on the trousers. So if you can just see there, the tiniest amount you're picking up to put your thread through, so that you don't see the stitching on the right side. So basically you're hand stitching and blind hemming it. Now I have got a blind hem machine, but I never do trousers on it. I find when I'm doing it by hand like this, because when you do it on a blind hem machine, if a thread gets caught and pulled, it will all unravel. Doing it by hand, it's not going to happen, so long as you're securing it enough. And I'm just picking, so I'm not doing my stitches too big and I'm not doing them too small. So I'm picking the tiniest bit up, and then I'm literally just coming in probably a couple of milli inside the overlock stitching. So I'm going to carry on getting these done, then I'm going to press them, and then I'll try them on. When you are making something from an item of clothing that you've already got, you do need to go for the similar type fabric than what that garment is made of. So if it's stretch, you need to go with a stretch fabric. And bear in mind also that even a stretch fabric is not forced to have the same stretch of what's in the item of clothing you're making. So say for instance, if it was a top, have a feel at the fabric and have a feel at the fabric that you're going to be making it in again, and just check that they've got the similar, because if there's not as much stretch in the one that you are going to be making, cut it slightly bigger to allow for that. Now with this particular make, because I've got a white fur dog on it, I will wash them inside out, but I will wash them with a colour catcher. The colour catcher's going to catch it and it's not going to run into my lead and my dog. I have pre-washed this fabric. Now, as a rule, I don't always wash my fabric and I've never had a problem with shrinkage. But on this occasion, with it being black, I did pre-wash it and iron it before I've made the item up. But I just wanted to let you know about that. So this is the finished garment. These, I absolutely love how wide I've done them. Absolutely love them. They are so comfortable to wear because I've got the stretch going down and the stretch coming across. You've obviously got your elastic waistband, but you can see that just looks so smooth. I don't even feel like I'm wearing a pair of trousers because there's just no restriction or anything up here. I've got my little dog here. Now, I'd like to name my little dog, so if you can think of a name for him or her, let me know in the comments below. Bound to have your ham and eggs in Carolina. So, what do you think to this little make? Such an easy project. Such an easy project. And like I said, if you've got some trousers that are elasticated waist, you can make them as narrow or as wide as you like. It's going to be your garment. You do it to how you want it to be. But it's such an easy make. Easy make. I'm going to do some more, but I'm going to probably do them in some summer colours, just probably some plain wide leg trousers for summer. You could put pockets in if you wanted. I didn't want to because, to be honest with you, I think this is just, it looks so smooth around the top. And I'm going to be having my vintage handbags when I'm going to be going out, because I'll be wearing these to rock and roll do's. So I hope you've enjoyed this make. It's been a bit of a fun make, and don't forget to give me some dogs' names, because I'd like to name my little doggy. So thanks for joining me, guys. If you've liked the videos, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed yet, please do. Take care for now, and see you soon. Bye for now.